I'm back in the workshop again, and I'm already stinking of old gearbox oil, and that's because I've been playing around with this new shifter that's turned up, which is from a Ford F-150, so it's come all the way from America, but it's the proper top-down shifter for the Cummins, for the ZF gearbox. So yeah, I was playing with this, and the detent system, which stops you from putting it into reverse gear by accident. And part of that little system is this little tiny spring. This spring ended up dropping through the top of the gearbox into the gearbox itself, and luckily I've been able to get it out. I've been able to take off the side panel the PTO plate on the side of the gearbox and get it back, thankfully, because if that had dropped into any of the gears or anything like that, I don't know what I would have done. I would have had to give the gearbox a complete strip down, so yeah, that was lucky. But yeah, so I've had this turn up and a huge box full of goodies turn up over the last week or so, so we've got plenty to be getting on with. So I'll take you through that now. Oh shit, got it again. Right, so I'll set up all of this shit on the tailgate of the 130 to go through it all. It's a handy, good bench. There's a variety of stuff here really, so where should we start? Anyway, so, well, gauges, they're always nice. Everyone loves a good gauge. That is a Durite oil pressure gauge, nice black face, 12 volt lighting, and it's a proper mechanical gauge, so you can just about see all of the capillaries in there and all the adapters and stuff that you need. And I've put I think it's 1/8 MPT adapter into the main oil gallery on the side of the engine, so that should fit nicely in the dash. Another gauge. This one isn't a Durite, but it's a pretty close match. Dirty already. Yeah, so it's similar sort of face, black surround, white writing. It's close enough really, although I could get a Durite one, but this was cheaper. So that's a coolant temperature gauge, and that came with its own matched sender, which I've actually put into the engine in a minute. I'll show you that in a minute. I've already put it in there. So yeah, it's a matched pair, so it should give me a fairly accurate reading. What else have we got? So I'm actually hopefully going to make up the clutch pipe at some point over the next, maybe this weekend or possibly next weekend at some point, but this is part of it. So that's a banjo fitting that goes onto the back of the clutch slave. Obviously you have the banjo bolt that goes through there, secures it. So this is going to be one sort of more flexible part of the brake pipe, and so at this end it's going to go into a 5/8 UNF fitting, which is basically the same as what's on the clutch master cylinder. So from that point on it will be a solid copper pipe, which I'm going to make up. So that should work quite well, hopefully. What else we've got? That's the other part of the banjo bolt that I was on about. Just a couple of decent battery terminals, because I've had some battery cables made up as well. So I've got a very long lead that goes from, well, it's 2 meters. It goes from the battery positive terminal straight to the starter motor, and they're all this very flexible 70mm squared heavy duty cable. So yeah, these are obviously the earths I'm going to be using. One of them is going to go from starter motor to chassis, I think, or possibly to the engine, probably chassis, and then the other one is obviously the negative terminal for the battery to earth it to the body. Yeah, so 70mm squared, they're nice and chunky, they won't heat up or anything, and they'll transfer the current that you need to turn over a big lump like the Cummins. Fleet guard oil filter, because I've never changed the one that's on the engine, so that's just a standard Cummins fleet guard oil filter, very nice and big. What else we've got? This is a Bearmac fuel sender unit, because vehicle was a petrol originally. It obviously had a petrol sender, and it was very manky, and it was all worn out anyway, knackered. So yeah, that's just a standard diesel fuel pickup unit. And this being a bit of a newer one, it's got a nice sealed, I think it's called an Econo seal connector on there, so should work quite well. So what I showed you there in the intro was this shifter which I've had delivered from America. Basically, obviously, when in a DAF 45, the engine and gearbox are designed for a cab over setup, so the shifter is a sort of got a linkage on top that doesn't come up straight, basically. So this is your normal top-down shifter, if you like. Yeah, not a lot more to say about that, but it should work quite nicely. The only thing that might have to be modified is, because this is obviously for a F-150, the gear stick is angled to the left towards where the driver will be sat in an American vehicle. So I'm either going to have to make some kind of adapter so my stick comes up in the right direction, or I think some people have heated these up and then, you know, sort of blacksmith them into the direction they want. So we can have a look at doing that at some point. And then, yeah, so I've talked earlier about making the clutch pipe. I didn't have a decent brake pipe flaring tool, so I picked up this laser one, which is a bit better than the sort of Chinese crap that you buy for about 10 quid, and it actually gives you, decent flares that don't leak and stuff like that. So that should do the job nicely. Yeah, seems like a really good solid tool. And then finally, I'm going to take the camera off the stand for this. The biggest thing that turned up this week was this lovely new old stock wiring loom. So if it'll focus, come on, there we go. This is basically a TD5, a late TD5 main harness. So yeah, so some of you will be wondering why I've gone for a TD5 one. Basically, I've got a TD5 bulkhead, TD5 dashboard, a late TD5 dashboard with the center console that gives you the extra switches. And yeah, so with those two things, it kind of makes sense to have the loom that actually goes with the bulkhead. Obviously, a lot of this won't actually be used in this build because it's designed for use with a ECU controlled TD5 engine, so anything to do with the ECU won't be used really. And I know some people will cut that out or get rid of it, but to be honest, I'll just probably leave it in the vehicle, tie it up out of the way, and then you're not risking any damage to the rest of the loom then. But yeah, so this is, as you can tell by the 6 relays, this loom's actually got pretty much all the options you could have on at the time, with the exception of ABS, which is lacking, which is a good thing. So yeah, you've got heated seats, electric windows, heated front screen, heated rear screen. Basically all the options you could get at the time are in this loom. So although I probably won't have most of that stuff in the future, it might be nice to, I've already got all that in there, built in, ready to go. So yeah, I think it's good buy. And the other kind of advantage of using a TD5 loom is that, being a much more modern loom, it uses more modern connectors. They're all sealed. It's just much better constructed than the earlier looms, than the sort of 200 TDI era looms. That used a lot of Lucar connectors, which are just shite really. And if you've ever worked on old Land Rovers, you know what the wiring looms are like. Not saying the TD5 one's perfect, but they're a lot better. So we'll have a go at fitting that at some point. I'm just waiting for the fuse box to turn up, which in the TD5 sits under, I think the driver's seat. Basically, in one of the front seat boxes, you've got another fuse box that goes in there. That basically is your power distribution for the vehicle. So all the main it's got big fusible links in there that supply everything else. So yeah, I think it's quite a good setup. Obviously, being a late TD5 loom, all of the connectors for all of these switches in there will be present, so I can just wire them straight in. So yeah, it looks daunting, but it should be easy enough. And there's a fantastic resource in Microcat, which I'll show in a bit actually if anybody's interested, which gives you basically all of the descriptions of all the circuits, how they work, and actually a picture of every connector in the vehicle, so you can kind of work out from that very easily where stuff goes and where, you know, where it should be routed, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's that. Is there anything else that's turned up? Don't think so. I think that's it, but that's plenty to be getting on with anyway. So let's have a do. Okay, so yesterday I went down to my local hydraulics sort of hose and fittings place, which is Hydroquip in Addisham in Kent. So if anybody's nearby, very good guys, they sort you out with all this kind of stuff. Yeah, and got some fittings and hose and adapters basically, so I can get a few more jobs done. So this is the power steering pump off of the Cummins, which is, you know, obviously would have been in the DAF. I think they're set to something stupid like 200 bar. For use in the Land Rover, you have to get them reset down to, I think it's 70 bar. And Nick Stegel will tell me if I'm wrong there. But yeah, so he's the guy that you send them off to, and he'll send them back nicely refurbished like this one, set to the right pressure so you don't blow your steering box up. So yeah, what we've had done in there, I've just put I don't know what size it is to be honest. I'm terrible with fittings and hydraulic fittings, but it's basically the right size to allow me to connect my existing power steering hose. So hopefully that will be long enough. We'll find that out in a minute. And then we've got a 16mm return barb, which I'll basically just run a hose straight back to the power steering reservoir. So that should be good. Hopefully that all works. The other thing I brought over to them was my manky old lift pump. So the in-line basically was what I needed to adapt. So we've gone for I believe it's an 8mm barb on there, so I can run a hose straight back to the tank with that. And that's obviously where it's it then comes out of the lift pump and then into the fuel injection pump. So hopefully that works okay. And this bit's a bit dodgy. I'm not sure if this is going to work because they didn't really have the right fittings, but this is meant to be for the heater outlet, so the hose going into the heater box from the thermostat housing off the top of the head, and it's some kind of weird tapered thread, and then they've got 1, 2, 3 parts in that making that up, and it's going to stick up quite a long way. So I'm not entirely happy with that, but we'll see if it fits anyway. And I might have an elbow that I can put in there anyway. We'll have to have a look. But yeah, so Hydroquip, good guys. I'll probably be going back there again for the next load of pipes and stuff that I need. So I've just got that pump fitted for the first time with that suction fitting on there for the hose tail. And unfortunately it's a little bit close to the chassis, so by the time we get a hose in here, it's going to be, you know, pretty much fouling on this spring hanger. So what I might have to do is go back to Hydroquip and get a 90 degree for that, so we can bring it facing forwards. But no big deal. So at least we know it fits. This one's not clear of everything, so that looks okay. Next thing I want to try is actually getting the hose in there and seeing if we can get it to come around the engine and towards the power steering box. And the power steering pumps are actually more or less in the same place, sort of on the front left lower side of the engine. So hopefully this will actually fit and I can get this to come up onto the power steering pump without too much trouble. But let's give it a go. So not so much of that you saw from above, but so that's the high pressure power steering hose. It's actually worked out pretty well. So it's down here over the top of this airline, which I think is actually memory. Yeah, it's just a feed for the air compressor, which comes up here. Actually, I think that's the pressure side of the air compressor, so that's where the pressure's coming out. So it's actually quite hot, so I have to make sure that doesn't touch on there somehow. But yeah, anyway, so it goes down there, and then takes the normal route for the Land Rover power steering. And I can tuck it into these brackets, sort them out at some point. Up here, and then over into the power steering box as normal. So that's actually worked out quite well. Yeah, happy with that. I'm not sure whether I showed you guys this when I first got it, but this is basically the original 3.9 litre, 3.5 litre V8 radiator that would come with any normal Land Rover. But I sent it down to Transrad in Canterbury, which is a specialist radiator place. And what they did was they took the original top hose port out there and blanked it off, added it back on this side in 50mm or 2 inches, completely removed the oil cooler, which would have been integral into this, so that's completely been taken out of the center tank, and then enlarged the bottom hose 50mm as well. So now I've got 2 50mm ports, no oil cooler, and a nice big deep, you know, like 2.5–3 inch thick core to cool the Cummins down, which should be plenty. But yeah, nice job there. It's got a few marks on it from where I've been taking it in and out, but it's for all intents and purposes brand new. So if you do need a radiator making in the Kent area, I recommend Transrad. Right guys, I'm back having just watched the rugby, England Wales, and jolly good match it was too. I'm pretty stressed out now though, so let's get back to doing some proper work. This turbocharger has been sat on the engine for a while now, whilst I've been sussing everything out. As such, the housing hasn't been tightened up properly, or circlipped on. So I've just marked where it wants to live now. That mark is going to be in line with the oil inlet, so we can pop it on, and then hopefully I'll be able to figure out how to get the circlip in properly, because it can be a bit tricky. Yeah, so that's going to go in like so, the circlip facing this way. Pop the housing on, roughly where we want it. Sit that on its face, like so. Okay, so here's the mark. I'm literally just going to spin around until that's where we want it. That's half in. Woo! Woo! Sat on the housing. See me. A couple of these. Coming out. This is heavy. Okay. That's perfect, gives us a nice bit of clearance underneath the turbo boost pipe. Right guys, so it's Friday night, I'm back in the workshop. Tonight's goal is basically going to be getting the Cummins started and giving it its first sort of run in the truck really. So it's quite exciting. There's a lot of jobs that need to be done still, although I've crossed off a lot already. There's still quite a lot that needs to be done for its first startup, so yeah, we're just going to try and work my way through that, try not to forget anything, and yeah, hopefully by the end of tonight we'll get some smoke, we'll get some Cummins music, so yeah, should be good. So one of the first things I'm going to do tonight is take all the rocker covers off, and obviously there's no oil in the engine at the moment. It's been sat for probably 2 years now without running, so what it needs is a bit of oil on all of the rockers, and you know, by putting oil in at the top, it's going to drain down over the camshaft, over all the important contact metal bits that will probably be quite dry by now. Yeah, because obviously everything's been draining down to the sump for the last 2 years. So yeah, going to get all these off, dribble a bit down, and then we can put the full 12 to 15 litres in through the main filler. And I've actually got the dipstick installed in the right place now as well. Don't know if you can see that just down here. So that's installed at the back of the engine down into the bowl, and that'll give me the correct reading as it would have been in the truck. So yeah, I think it's 12 litres low and 15 litres high. So yeah, quite a lot of oil. So this is the engine oil for the Cummins. 20 litres from eBay, shipped straight here for free, which is pretty awesome. Well, not free. Shipping was free. The oil was probably about 50 quid, I think, for 20 litres. So it's 1540 mineral engine oil, which you don't really see that much these days, but that's what the Cummins needs. And the most important thing about it is it's got all of the Cummins certification on there as well. So there's 20072, 20076, 2077 and 78. They're the Cummins spec numbers, so it's important that whatever engine oil you put in has got that rating. And believe it or not, that's the most suitable container I can find at the moment, so it's going in a glass. Try not to slop it everywhere. Oh, it's not going well. Oh, cool. How are you supposed to tip from these things? Plenty. Look at that stuff. It's like gravy. A certain member of the Cummins Land Rover group will probably neck that. Make sure the rocker's nicely coated, the valves, and that's going to run down the push rod holes straight onto the camshaft. So that'll be nice and coated for the first time she starts up. Literally just for that first flick of the starter motor, because you build up oil pressure pretty quickly, or hopefully anyway. But just for that first turn, just so that everything is nicely coated and protected. Just good practice really. Smells like an old tractor. Here, dripping down onto the sump. This is where I've forgotten something, and I have to take some off again. No, should be good. Right, now let's go and do that another 2 times. So next job, whilst we're messing around with oil, is going to be fitting this Durite mechanical oil pressure gauge. For those of you who don't know, these basically run a very thin tube, copper tube, called a capillary, from the engine itself, and basically oil will work its way all the way down that pipe to the pressure gauge, which then mechanically reads the pressure for you. That's obviously very important to make sure you've got pressure when you're first starting an engine, or at any time really, but since this has been not used for 2 years, it's going to be, you know, what I'm looking at when I'm first starting the engine, so yeah, let's get it wired in. There you go, so what you can see there on the left is the little fitting that I've got with that Durite gauge, which is where the capillary will join basically. So there we go, that's the capillary line attached, just nipped it up, comes up here. I've left most of it coiled up because it's going to be eventually run into the dashboard through one of those holes, and that's the gauge just connected to it there. So yeah, hopefully that springs up when as soon as we start cranking. Right, so another important pre-startup check for your Cummins is going to be making sure that the fuel stop solenoid is operating properly. What this basically is, this is just a sort of an inlet valve to your fuel injection pump. So with the key off, this plunger is all the way down as it is now, which blocks off fuel to the plunger of your delivery pump, basically, so you don't get any delivery. When you put the key on, it puts 12 volts to this terminal, and the plunger basically sucks in like that. This is a solenoid, so it sucks it in magnetically, and you get fuel to your injection pump, so you can chooch. So first of all, just going to make sure this battery's got a good amount of juice in it, and we've got just over 12 volts, so that should be fine in reality. So I'm just going to hold it against this. Well, I can actually hold it straight on the terminal there. Hopefully you can see that. And then put 12 volts onto it with this wire, and you can see there it's sucking in. That's not me doing it with my finger. So there you go, that's how that works. So we can pop that back in now, move on to the next job. Yeah, I know, still not proper wood. Today's job, or tomorrow's job actually, is going to be building a log store outside, so we'll be on our way to getting some proper firewood. Right guys, you're getting closer to the big moment. So this is one of these, it's an 85 amp hour battery that I've taken out of an old Merc. So I mean, it's a fairly big battery. It's from a diesel Merc, an OM606 actually, funnily enough. But I don't think it's not charged, so I've just checked the voltage with this multimeter, and it's actually only reading about 12.2 volts, so that's not going to be enough to spin her, I don't think, if it will at all. I mean, even when it's fully charged, it might still struggle to deliver the cranking amps that we need for this. But so you can see my big main battery lead is connected straight to the starter motor, and we've got an earth lead here, same size. These are 70mm squared cables, so they're really chunky. I think the nominal current rating for them is something like 500 amps or something like that, so something stupid. And then the starter motor is obviously earthed to the chassis as well, over there somewhere. So yes, that should work. And then we've got two wires which will be used in the process of starting it up. So this is the one that's connected to the starter motor terminal. So if I put that onto there, you can hear it click now. There we go. So that's working. This one is your stop solenoid, so it's going straight to the little 12 volt solenoid up there, and if we listen carefully you should be able to hear it click. So that's working, it's good. Hi guys, it's the next morning, and it's probably going to be a bit of a crap end to the video, but basically there's a problem with the starter motor. I'll put a clip in the video actually of I recorded on my phone, but basically I fitted the starter, tried to crank it, and it makes a really horrible sort of grinding, heavy grinding noise. I've tried various combinations of spacers and washers to space it out, but I don't think that's the problem. I think what the issue is the profile of these teeth. So you can see on this starter they're actually very pointed with almost no flat top to them, and they're round tooth profile, and then quite a pointed root as well of the teeth. But then if I show you the ring gear on the flywheel, I can get in there. You can see, if the light comes on, yeah, you can see that these are a lot squarer. You can see they've got like a square top to the gear, and then a square root as well. So there's no way that was ever going to mesh properly, really. And I haven't got the original starter motor that came off it because I sold it to somebody on the Facebook group. But I've got pictures of it before I sold it, and I might actually put one of those in the video as well. But you can see the original starter had much squarer teeth, and just match the profile of the ring gear better. So I think that's what the problem is. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board, try and find another starter. It's a bit disappointing because I wanted to get it going this weekend, but yeah, we're still not too far away. There's a few little jobs to be done, but I'm sure either next weekend or sometime this week I'll get hold of a starter motor and get it going. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll speak to you again in a bit.